Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So housing has been a hot topic of late. There's just not enough, and what we have is too expensive. Here to talk about a fresh approach to community development and the ways housing is manufactured is the founder and owner of MCM Communities, Mr. Amin Khoury. Welcome to the show, Amin.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start by discussing kind of all of the products and services that MCM Properties and Communities, and their partners provide. What does MCM encompass?
So we operate in a couple different verticals. One of them is standard manufactured communities. We own and operate manufactured communities, and that model is land lease, lot rent. You buy the home, you leave it in our community, and so that's kind of one segment of our business. Within that, we're also a home builder because our niche in that industry has been kind of value add. We buy them old and we build them back to being new. And so we site and order and place and sell a lot of homes, relatively speaking, in the hundreds over the last 2 or 3 years. So we're a verticalized construction group specializing in modular and manufactured installation, the sourcing and implementation of those. And we're now a dealership, which spans both manufactured or HUD homes, old mobile homes is what they would be referred to, modular homes, system-built homes, tiny homes. These are all factory-built homes that are built to local building code specifications. So those are our 3 or 4 areas of operation.
Got it. Okay. And so where do you currently have communities that are built out?
We're entirely within Michigan. We're entirely in the Lansing and Greater Grand Rapids markets.
Got it. Okay. And are all of these for sale products, or are some rental units, or how do they break down on a business mix?
So we still have a few rental units left, but we're not renting anymore. We found that better communities start with actually not having a lot of renting going on so that everybody's a homeowner. So within the communities themselves, it's 100% homeowners, except for some rental, agreements that are working their way through the pipeline.
Got it. But I mean, that's important, right? I think a lot of the housing stock that's being built is multifamily for rent, just because that seems to be where the money is and where the lending availability is and things of that nature. And I think the world, or at least our communities, are clamoring for home ownership, and that sets people up for generational wealth and equity and all the things that go along with that. So I'm fascinated to continue to learn more. So you essentially find plots of land, acquire them, and then based on the website I was looking at, I mean, you named communities. And, there's this, dozens or 50 acres that you acquire, and you build, 50 or 80 homes or 100 homes in there with great amenities. Talk a little bit about kind of that process, how you're not just putting one home in a subdivision or an empty lot. You're building a community.
So let's go with the ones we've done, and then the ones we're speccing or looking to do. The ones we've done that are sitting in the pipeline now are just very, very old trailer parks. They existed since, in many cases, the 60s.
Okay.
And what happens in that case is that you rebuild everything. You start with infrastructure, all the homes, all the grounds, everything that you can see, smell, hear, touch needs to get rebuilt. And once you do that, you're left with a very nice community or neighborhood, depending on what you put in it. And we tend to focus on amenities, right? We want dog parks, pickleball courts, playgrounds, swimming pools, clubhouses, social and grilling gazebos. You try to build out what commonly is thought of as a condo association or an HOA.
Yep.
And that's really what the mobile home laws are evolving into. So there's nothing terribly mobile about a mobile home anymore. So what you're left with are communities that are incorporated under those. Moving to the second category of what you talked to, specifying areas that you can put in communities, that's the same thing, except you don't have to tear down what was there first.
Right.
That really is the only difference. And whether you incorporate that and charter that under, mobile home law or condominium or HOA law, begins to get semantic. I mean, it can get nerdy and complex, but it begins to get semantic. There's a fee to live there, and you have access to the community.
Got it. Okay. And I'm hearing that, these are not your grandparents' manufactured homes, that the quality has really come a long way. And this is really where the rubber meets the road, that you manufacture these homes that are usually, it looks to me like they're pretty modest, homes in square footage, but they look like they're really, really good quality. So talk a little bit about your manufacturing process and what these homes look like.
So yeah, let's get the business model super clear.
Yeah.
We're not a factory of homes. We are a large consumer of homes. We buy from factories.
Oh, okay.
The major factories in the country are Clayton Homes, Champion and Skyline Homes. Clayton is the largest home builder in the country every year, numbering into hundreds of thousands of units. So when you think about, Toll Brothers or Lennar, I mean, these guys are measuring in the 5s and 10,000s. Now think about Clayton, hundreds of thousands. So we're procuring from the largest factories of off-site constructed product, and that's why the homes can be as affordable as they are. Forget whether they're modular or system built to local code or to HUD code. That's the only difference between something that you would consider as technically as a mobile home or a modular home. Factory evolution has made that concept nearly obsolete. The homes are coming off the same factory lines. The reason that the homes represent 20-30% better value is that the factories themselves are doing this on a massive scale. They're sourcing for 100,000 homes or 50,000 homes, and they're putting them on an assembly line and building them out that way. There are modifications that you can make along the way. Think about airplanes. When you build an airplane, you don't bring the wheels and the fuselage to the runway. You bring it to a central factory and you assemble it there and then deal with the transportation aspect. The same thing is proving out in the home building business to be a better approach. 50 years from now, 25 years from now, I think the percentage of site-built homes is going to be much, much, much drastically smaller. These things are almost all going to be coming out of factories, or at least in part out of factories.
Got it. And so how do you figure out where you want to invest, where you're building these? I've looked, and again, I mean, you're kind of going all in on these properties. It looks like, 70, 100, 120 homes. You're building neighborhoods or rebuilding neighborhoods, I suppose. But how do you decide where to go?
So we're what I would, in the big arc of analyzing the industry, we're a boutique regional player. And we came to our location partially through research and partially through happenstance. The key things to look at when you decide where to go is the average home price in that market. It's that simple. I mean, our standard 2 to 3 bedroom home delivered and installed all in with a dealer markup and our construction costs layered in, and the construction cost is real. That's real guys, kind of putting in foundations and stuff. We can deliver that comfortably at 165 and 155 in that range. Any market that represents a good value for 3 bedrooms that's new becomes a candidate for the product type.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, I mean, that's a fantastic price point, and everyone that I've talked to said that that's what the doctor ordered, right? And you hear from the home builders saying, I can't build $175,000 to $225,000 home because it cost me $350,000 to do it. So unless there's some sort of, supplement or incentive for me to be able to do that, I can't build a house that costs me more to build than what I can sell it for. So I just have continually heard that we're at some sort of an impasse, and it sounds like you've got a magic bullet, because that's exactly what it seems like these communities are looking for.
So we've come across site-built builders that can build at our price point. It's not crazy uncommon for really good engineers and builders to build out a neighborhood that matches or is close enough price-wise.
Yep.
But they have to build the same thing every time in order to do that. With our product, there's a lot more diversity of choice, because there's scores of factories that do this, and there are scores of floor plans and modification packages. So when you start to compare apples to apples, when you get to similar price points, on a per square foot basis between the manufactured or modular system-built product and a site-built product, you're looking at hundreds that have been built the exact same way to get to apples. So the builder's made a decision on his site-built. He's building a floor plan with one set of finishes and very little modification. That's how site-built can match on price. When we match on price, we have the full palette of multiple manufacturers in multiple floor plans that represents the accumulated machine tooling and architectural work over a really long period of time.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, it's fantastic. So, is there a certain type of buyer that you tend to attract? Do you call this workforce housing? Is this a niche market, or would you consider it just a community of new homes like a subdivision?
So the market applicability, what you're getting at there, definitely is evolving. 25 years ago, this would have been considered fringe and or mobile home type building. Today, I'm seeing it almost as sort of standard neighborhoods, because the homes have evolved to such a point where they're really nice looking 3 and 4 bedroom homes.
Right.
So it's really not workforce housing. I mean, anybody that's looking to get a lot of bang for their buck on a per square foot basis, anywhere between kind of 150,000 to, on the modular end, we're still delivering, really good economies of scale and quality, much further up the price scale, $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. These things are the question. The common denominator, is it better built in a factory or better built on site?
I would say factory. It seems like factory more and more so, especially when you talk about labor shortages and just the day in and day out reliability of maybe some of these trades workers. But I hear your story. That makes a lot of sense.
So if you look across industries, my background is private equity. If you look across industries from pacemakers to automobiles to jet airplanes to helicopters to computers, the only industry that hauls materials and men to locations is the home building industry. Everybody else got the joke when Henry Ford invented the production line that things are better built in controlled environments and not in the elements. The home building industry is archaic in its approach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to give a nod to one of my sponsors here today. And when it comes to managing your finances and planning your future, I suggest you contact my friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just getting started, getting ready to retire, or anywhere in between, Wagoner Financial can help you make smart financial decisions. Don't navigate complex problems on your own. Wagoner has the expertise to help you feel confident that you're making the right financial choices. Contact an advisor by calling 517-853-3367 or visit their website at wagoner-financial.com. You won't regret it. So, yeah, I hear everything you're saying, and it's fascinating to hear just how simply you put that is kind of an archaic process that traditional home building has long been in, and that this is a kind of a fresh new approach and certainly seems to be more cost effective. How long have you been developing communities like this?
I've only been in this business for about 4.5 or 5 years.
Got it.
I came at it through private equity, so there are great folks that I can help you run down that are pioneers in all aspects and phases of this industry.
Got it. And are municipalities receptive? I mean, do you run into zoning challenges, or do you have, I mean, it seems to me, if word got out, and that's what hopefully this podcast will do for you, it seems like you might get inbound phone calls from the city of whatever saying, holy crap, if you can build me 120 unit, for home ownership for $150,000 to $200,000, I'll rubber stamp that and get you started in 3 months.
So the answer is that municipalities are a combination of A, very interested and need the solution, and B, incredibly incapable of moving because of the nuance of different types of building codes. There's a lot of relic code that was applicable in the 50s and the 60s when mobile homes needed to be regulated and weren't regulated, right? I mean, mobile homes weren't regulated and called manufactured homes until, I think, 1976.
Right.
And so all the code that sits on the books differentiates very, very specifically between what the definition of a manufactured or mobile home is and what a home that's built to local or the international IRC, the International Residential Code, which is what all local code is. It's been adopted by local municipalities. The words themselves ball that process up in such a way that it's very hard for them to be flexible. Across the board, they need the product. Some municipalities are able to do it, and others aren't, and I've dealt with both.
And I hear more and more as I dive into this topic that there's, a lot of efforts or even pressure to rip the lid off of all of that, modernize all of that. Let's burn down this whole, so tightly defined. I mean, certainly, code, implies safety, right? We want to make sure that people are getting into safe structures and, that's all set. But other than that, it's like, we need accessory dwelling units. We need to have multifamily where we have subdivisions, and we need to knock down all of these no's, to allow for creative and modern housing solutions, missing middle housing solutions that get so bogged down in, these one-off requests that, granted, there's a million municipalities out there, but it seems like there is a concerted effort. And I think the progressive communities that understand how dire this is are starting to kind of rip the lid off of, let's find the easy path to yes. If it's reasonable and it's safe, let's let these people come in and build. So hopefully you will see more lubrication than friction as you move forward, would be my hope for you.
So the need is driving it, and the concept, the impediment is around the actual definition, right? It's around the transportability. That's the concept of a manufactured or home that's regulated by the Mobile Home Act, which is kind of the roots of the manufacturing process. it's just that definition that it's delivered on an axle.
Right.
The modular homes that are delivered on a flatbed that comply with the local code is the same product. With one's delivered on a flatbed, the other's delivered on an axle. It's the definitional concept of transportability that the code's balled up on, but it's obsolete and it will be changing. There's nothing terribly mobile about today's manufactured homes. They're affixed to a concrete slab.
Yep.
And it's very expensive to break them apart and move them. And there's nothing that's all that more labor-intensive or costly about reverse engineering the construction installation of a modular home, breaking it into its original flat-bedded modules and moving those. They come off the same factory floor. One is engineered to a federal code, the other's engineered to the IRC code. And that's the only real difference. So in Florida, where there are hurricanes and heavy wind loads and stuff like that, those municipalities are adopting very quickly the right by law to replace your manufactured or mobile home with a modular home. In Michigan right now, the municipalities are all wrapped around the axle of what the exact definition of one is over the other because they don't have the wind loads to deal with. So they look at the code and they interpret it and say, look, that's not a mobile home by this definition. And all of the municipalities over some broad time frame are going to get there. They're all going to get the joke that, Clayton makes modulars and manufactured by the same model name. One of them's to one code, one's to the other. Both codes are, plenty good and hardly different. And they'll all get there. It's just going to take some time for the municipalities and state legislatures to revise the language to loosen up those differentiations, which are minuscule.
Right on. Okay. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, can I just ask, is there anything else you want to share about MCM Communities and the products and services you provide that I haven't asked you? So
I think the most important thing for the segment of the audience that's looking to not rent, if you can afford a 2 to 4 bedroom rent,
right,
it's a solution, particularly in areas where land is attainable at relatively reasonable rates. It's something that is not crazy. And kind of what we've done is, or what we're trying to do, is remove those impediments. So we have a residential finance team. We have really good designers and experts in how to help you shop for the right home. Because if you can find the right home that's already mass-produced and figure out how to site it, you can do that for, what I'm going to call a run-of-the-mill rental rate, right? We're not talking crazy differentials in numbers. We're talking, almost apples to apples.
Makes a lot of sense. You're preaching to the choir. I'm just so grateful that we got the introduction and I could get you on the show to talk about a solution that I think a lot of folks are clamoring for. So where can people learn more about MCM Communities?
MCM, they can learn it at www.mcmcommunities.com. We are Twitter at MCM Companies, TikTok at MCM Companies, Instagram at MCM Companies, Facebook, MCM Companies, and LinkedIn, MCM Companies.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the success you've had. It sounds to me like you're bound for glory, and we're just really grateful to have you on, the founder and owner of MCM Communities, Mr. Amin Khoury. Thanks for joining me today, Amin.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.